Hey there, fellow educators, and honestly, anyone who's ever wondered what would happen if we actually listened to teachers for once. I'm Leah Cleary, and this is If Teachers Ruled the World. You know, after 25 years in the classroom, I've learned that teaching isn't really about having all the answers. It's about being brave enough to ask the right questions, and maybe, just maybe, admitting when we have no idea what we're doing, which, let's be honest, happens more often than we'd like to admit. So grab your coffee, or whatever, and let's talk about the real stuff, the messy, imperfect, sometimes beautiful reality of what it's like to shape young minds while trying to keep our own sanity intact. Because if we're going to change the world, we might as well be honest about what that actually looks like. All right, let's dive in. Hey friends, welcome back to If Teachers Ruled the World. I'm Leah Cleary, and today we're diving into one of the hottest education policy trends sweeping the nation right now: cell phone bans in schools. You've probably heard the phrase bell-to-bell restrictions thrown around in the news. Politicians are calling it a solution to student distraction and mental health issues. They put a lot on those cell phones. But as someone who's been managing phones in my own classroom for years, I want to translate what this policy jargon actually means for those of us who have to make it work in the real world. So let's start with that phrase, bell-to-bell. Politicians say bell-to-bell policy, but what they really mean is, teachers, you're now phone police from the moment kids walk in your door until they leave. Good luck with all that. At least 26 states now have laws restricting cell phones in schools, with 17 states acting just this year alone. New York just became the largest state to require these restrictions, effective this fall. But here's what I want to know. Where's the implementation plan? Now, I want to be clear. I'm not against managing phones in the classroom. I've had my own phone policy since before it was a countywide policy in my district. When students enter my classroom, phones go in a pouch. The pouch isn't locked, and I have a charging station with 27 spots, so kids can charge their phone while they're stored. A little spoonful of sugar, as Mary Poppins would say. And here's the thing. Most of my students are fine with this because we have clear expectations and mutual respect. If there's a genuine need, like a football player expecting a text from coach about a scout visit, or a student who needs to call mom about staying after school, we handle it reasonably. Because here's what politicians don't understand. We don't live in the same world I grew up in, where a teacher could expect to be obeyed just because they said, do this. For better or worse, that is not our reality. And as Machiavelli said, oh yes, I'm quoting Machiavelli. Well, I'm paraphrasing Machiavelli. It's better to be feared than loved, but you don't want to be hated, because if people hate you, they're going to overthrow you. That's true whether you're dealing with kids or adults. Now let's address the elephant in the room. But what about emergencies concern from parents? I'm going to be honest. This is the argument I have the absolute least sympathy for. And here's why. If there's a genuine emergency, parents should contact the school directly or come and get their child. There's absolutely nothing a parent can do in the case of a lockdown by texting their child, except create noise that might draw attention to people hiding behind a locked classroom door. I once had a parent text her child during my class to tell them their grandmother had died. Who does that? That is so inappropriate. If it's a genuine emergency, it shouldn't be delivered in a text message. For the love of all that is good in this world. That's just the lowest form of communication for something that serious. So here are practical questions these policies raise. Take New York's new bell-to-bell policy. They're talking about phone storage throughout the entire school day, not just during individual classes. Some districts are considering having students check phones at the main office all day or using locked pouches. But let's think that through. What happens during a fire drill? In my classroom, as students leave during a drill, I let them grab their phones from the pouch. When we come back, phones go right back in. I'm not going to torture kids by leaving their property in a locked room where they're worried someone might mess with it while we're outside. But with these locked storage systems, what's the protocol? Nobody can stay in the building during a fire drill to guard the phones. And do schools really have the resources to hire someone to monitor phone storage all day? When those locked boxes inevitably get broken into during an emergency, then what? Here's what frustrates me about these mandates. Politicians have these ideas that sound great. Kids are on their phones all the time. These lazy teachers aren't doing their job. Let's make them. But that's not the case in most classrooms. That's not the case in my classroom. My students aren't sitting there scrolling through social media because I've established a system that works. Don't give me a mandate with a specific way to handle something if the way I'm already handling it is working. And if it's not working for some teachers, we need to give them support to help them. Give them strategies, not mandates. Because here's the reality. The teachers who aren't enforcing phone policies now, they're probably not going to enforce the new mandated ones either. But you're adding another layer of bureaucracy and potential conflict for those of us who have already figured out how to maintain classroom management while treating students like human beings. What we really need is support for teachers to develop classroom management skills, not micromanagement of exactly how we handle every situation. Policing phones should not be added to our already overwhelming list of responsibilities. We're educators, not security guards. I understand the concerns about phone use and student mental health. They're valid, but effective classroom management has always been about relationships, clear expectations, and reasonable enforcement. You can't legislate your way into good teaching. So to the policymakers listening, I'd love to see your implementation plans. Show me how this actually works in practice. And to my fellow teachers, remember that your professional judgment matters. You know your students. You know your classroom dynamics. Don't let mandates make you feel like you have to choose between being effective and being human. That's it for today's episode. Next time, we'll be exploring what education might look like if teachers actually had a voice in the policies that govern our work. Until then, keep teaching with both your head and your heart. That's it for this week on If Teachers Ruled the World. Be sure to subscribe, share with a teacher friend, and join the conversation at leahcleary.com. Until next time, keep ruling your classroom and rewriting the rules.